Hi guys, it's Ben here from the Property Investment Academy. I'd like to talk to you guys today about fear of failure. It's something that I know a lot of people have. Obviously we're interested in property and how that affects that, but it also applies to any area of your life. So I'm going to give you 6 strategies of how to overcome fear and actually get stuff done. The last one that I'm going to share with you is the one that's had the most impact on me, and I'm going to share exactly how that has done that. Obviously we have just started the practical property investing course, so please check that out at www.practicalpropertyinvesting.com. Please like this video, please share it, and if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. Fear. I was talking to a guy recently who was buying their first property investment or investment property, and they were saying that actually what he didn't expect was the amount of fear that he had about buying that property. He said he understood all the logical reasons why he should be doing it. He understood all of that, but there was something inside of him that was stopping him from actually, or he felt was holding him back from actually putting that into action. And I think it's true for most of us. Most of us have this fear, whether that's buying a property, whether it's public speaking, whatever it is. We have this thing inside of us that holds us back from doing what we would want to do. And I think, you know, as far as my life view, what we should be doing is trying to fulfill the potential that we have. So some people have a lot of potential that they can fulfill, some people have less. It doesn't matter. The point is you have potential that you're not fulfilling at the moment, and you need to find a way to expand your knowledge and experience and take action in order to fulfill that potential. And the major stopping point for fulfilling that potential is fear. So we want to understand where that fear actually comes from. You know, it could be a couple of things. It could be a fear of failure. It could be a fear of the unknown. It could be a fear of going outside your comfort zone. But what is the root cause of those things? And I would suggest that's normally how you actually view yourself. Because all of us have a view of us as a person, what we can and can't do. All of us have a value that we put on ourselves. You know, I know for me, previously being self-employed, in the entertainment space, quite often people would price themselves how they valued themselves. So it didn't matter how good they were at what they were doing. If they didn't feel that they were worth charging big money, they wouldn't charge big money. Even if they were worth it, even if they saw someone who wasn't as good as them charging more and getting booked. So we have to actually have that, we have to value ourselves. We have to value ourselves and be able to see ourselves achieving what we want to achieve. You know, I know for me, when it comes to money, I was actually brought up in quite a poor upbringing. I was brought up on a council estate, those kind of things, and that paints your view of the world. It kind of puts you, actually, if I was going to be a multi-millionaire or a billionaire, you know, from a council estate, it's too far removed, and you get this it's outside my comfort zone. It's not how I view myself. It's not the picture of myself that I see in my head. So therefore I don't believe it's possible. So in order to achieve, you have to actually change that attitude. And I think really these problems, this fear that's stopping people from doing stuff, is actually a case of emotion over logic. And I think that's the first thing that you can focus on, is actually examine this logically, to say, look, why is it, and take a little time to analyse that and say, why am I feeling this fear? Is it rational? Are there people that can do this? Okay, are there people that can do this who are perhaps not as advanced as what I am? And if they can do it, why am I scared? You know, if they can do it, I can do it. And actually approach that from a logical point of view and say, look, logically, what I'm fearing, what's stopping me from doing this doesn't make sense. It doesn't actually make sense. It's a thing that is just my emotions, just my feelings. And so if you can give yourself a logical argument to say why you can do it, that's the first thing that you can do that hopefully would help. So I know for me, getting around people and actually seeing what other people are achieving, who people who perhaps weren't as or I didn't view them as perhaps as able as I was in certain areas. I remember a friend of mine growing up, he wasn't very, I never viewed him as being a very clever guy, but he got this amazing job and he was earning crazy money and he got this qualification, and I thought to myself, you know what, if he can do it, there's actually no reason why I can't do it. So definitely, I think there's a danger of comparing yourself with people and saying, well, they're successful and I'm not, so therefore I'm useless. But actually, if you've got that first confidence coming through and say, actually, I have this ability, and then compare yourself with other people and say, well, they're at my level, or they're, I can certainly do what they can do, and they're achieving this, there's no reason why I can't, and that should give you the confidence. So that's one thing, definitely, to look at yourself. And I think you need to surround yourself with positive people, people who look at the world in the way that you do, look at these opportunities and are prepared to go for them. Because I think if you're always surrounded by people who are telling you, no, you can't achieve this, no, you're no good, no, this isn't for you, that's gonna make things all the more difficult for you. So you need to find people who are positive, who want the best for you, who will be happy at your success, and you need to surround yourself with those good vibes to actually encourage yourself to do that. And that's not necessarily easy. You have the friends that you grow up with, your family, they maybe will have an attitude of saying, actually, no, you can't achieve this. Why? What makes you think that you can? And it's not a case of cutting them off and never going to see them. It's a case of finding other friends who are also going to encourage you, and talking to those friends about these projects that you've got going on. And I think for me, I know getting into networking has really helped. I was a member of BNI for a while. There's 4N. There's these other networks where you'll find people who are much more positive about business opportunities and property. Property networking events, great. Are great to go along, find other property investors, chat to them, encourage each other, because that will actually give you that positivity that you need to actually move forward. The next thing that I've got written down is actually to banish failure from your vocabulary. And what I mean by that is people look at the world as pass or fail. And I think this is a terrible way of looking at the world. It means that either you're going to win or you're going to lose, whereas actually life isn't like that. There isn't a win or a lose. If you get up in the morning and you say, right, I want to make £10,000 today, and you do really well and you make £9,000, just as a silly example. Now, if you've got an attitude of pass or fail, if you've got an attitude of win or lose, you'll say, well, I didn't reach my goal, so I've lost, I'm a loser, I'm a failure because I didn't reach £10,000. Whereas actually, if you took the approach to say, actually, it's a question of scale. We say, okay, look, we've had a 90% success rate. Now, 90% success rate sounds an awful lot better than I didn't achieve it. So if you look at life on a sliding scale, if you look at it as you're achieving something, you've achieved 90% of what your potential was for that day. That's brilliant, and it changes your attitude. But also, I think that the key thing with this is to say, look, failure isn't part of it. You either succeed or you learn and improve. And I think the only way to learn is to make mistakes. So if we say mistakes are failures, then we're not going to learn. So instead what we need to do is say, I'm either going to succeed or it's going to be a learning experience and I'm going to get better. So either way you're having a success, because you're either growing as a person or you're succeeding. And both of those are a success. So definitely get rid of the idea of win or lose, get rid of the idea of failure. Everything is a success. You're either going to succeed with what you want or you're going to learn, and it's going to make it better for you going forward. So the next thing that I've got is realize that you're in the middle of a story. Now this thing basically really came home to me. I discovered this when I was probably at the lowest point I've ever been in my life. I had basically, my wife left me. I was a single parent of 3 kids. I had to give up my job, my career, and I had to be at home with the kids and look after them. To have that complete change of environment and all of the things that go with the social side of work, to be stuck at home with 3 kids. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I was happy to do it, but it really does take an impact on your self-esteem and the way that you view yourself. I read this in a book, this idea that we are all in a story. And actually, when I took this on board, I got really emotional, and it literally changed the way that I viewed myself and changed my life. This idea that any good story is about overcoming difficulties. If you think of all of the classic stories, all of the greatest stories that we have, the one that came to my mind was Lord of the Rings. You think of the idea of would the Lord of the Rings story, if you know the story, they've got an evil ring that they've got to destroy, and they go through all of these trials and difficulties to get rid of this ring and to burn it off. Now, would that be a great story if it went like this? He found a ring and he threw it in the fire and it was destroyed and evil was done away with. That would not be a good story. That would be a terrible story. Nobody would read that story. So if you have a life where everything goes right and it's perfect and nothing ever goes wrong, that's not a good story, and it's not a good life. A good life is when the hero goes through difficult times and learns and develops and becomes a better person, and goes on that journey. And if you go on that journey, if you realise that you're on that journey, no matter where you are, no matter what failures you have in your life, you know you're in the middle of the journey. And that is going to make the ending so much better. The harder the journey, the better the ending, the better the story is. And it's just a way that you can view life, which I think can have a massive impact, to realise you're in the middle of a story, and whatever you go through now is going to make the victory all the more better. So you're in a story and you're in the middle of it. So all those negative things are a reason to prove how good it's going to be later. Within that concept, there's this concept of you can write your own ending. That you're not, life isn't set. Life, what happens to you, isn't something you're a victim of, that you've got no control. You have control over how you feel, how you react, and ultimately the outcome of those things. Now, there are some things that you don't have any control of. I'll grant you that. But if you say, I've got no control over this, situation is in control of me, and I am going nowhere because of this situation. Whereas actually, if you take responsibility and say, look, these things have happened, I'll take responsibility for that. Not fault, you're not taking blame, but you're taking responsibility. You say, I'll take responsibility for that, and that will give you a feeling of empowerment that means that you can make steps to take changes to make things better. All the time you say, I'm a victim and I can't do anything about it, you're actually stopping yourself from improving your situation. But if you say, look, I'll take responsibility for this and I'm going to take steps to improve the situation and make things better. So yeah, you can write your own ending. You want to think about, actually, how do I want this to end and how can I achieve that? So how do I want this to be? What do I want my life to be in the future? One final point that I want to make, which really, again, this had a massive impact on my life. But before I do, I just remind you, please like this, please share it if you're enjoying it. Please subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in property investment, check out www.practicalpropertyinvesting.com if you're interested. So the final thing, well, it's two parts really. That feeling that you have when you're afraid, that feeling of fear, you know, it's something I've experienced, kind of like an emptiness in my stomach, kind of it's a physical feeling that I would get, and I've had this feeling ever since I was a little kid. I was quite a nervous child. I didn't like to talk to people. I was very shy up until probably, you know, my late 20s, 30s. I found it really, really scary just to talk to people, just to pick up the phone, those kind of things. The first part of this is I learned that actually those feelings aren't going to change, or those feelings are going to be there. So it's better to accept that and just to say, look, this is how I feel and I'm going to do it. There was a book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. This idea that you will have these feelings and that there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to accept those feelings are there, and you have to push through those feelings and just get it done, just take action. Now that is really, really hard and takes an awful lot of effort, but it's something that I put into practice in my life and actually just did it, just went to places, just did things despite the feelings that I had. And then I came across something that really was a game changer. Really absolutely changed the way that I viewed things, changed my whole attitude. And that is this: those feelings are always going to be there. You're always going to feel those feelings. But those feelings aren't necessarily fear. We can take that hollow feeling in my stomach and we can say, well, that's called fear. I'm afraid, and that's negative, and that's going to stop me from doing something. But what about if we didn't call it fear? What if it's an NLP technique called relabeling. What if we call that feeling excitement? And we feel that feeling, and instead of saying, oh, I'm so scared, why don't we say, wow, I'm really excited. That feeling is excitement. That feeling is positive. And then what happens is we trick our brain to say, look, it's not a negative feeling, it's a positive feeling. We're really excited to do this, let's go. And it changes it from something that's going to stop you from doing something into something that actually gives you energy, gives you motivation, gives you excitement. Because that feeling certainly for me, that feeling in my stomach, which before was fear and I had to push through to actually move. Suddenly I could say, that's exciting, I'm really excited. Wow, that feeling's stronger, I'm really excited. That feeling's even stronger now, I'm so pumped about this. And that change in attitude actually changes the response and makes it much more easier to then take action and do things. So yeah, that's my little tips on fear. Hope you've enjoyed them. If you have, make sure you like this video, make sure you share it, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and check out practicalpropertyinvesting.com. Thanks guys, and I'll catch you soon.